Hi ho ho, and welcome to the Boy Time Podcast. I am Ivan Ramey, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast, and as always, I'm joined by Babby and Paul.
Hello.
We have a slam dunk episode for you guys. There was some gaming stuff, but I didn't watch any of it. I think there was the big Starfield thing. That was the big thing that happened this week, is that there was a big Starfield gameplay. It was like a story gameplay thing, which means that the first bit was like a cutscene and the rest of it was like a character slowly walking around planets while stuff happened. Very much like the first No Man's Sky trailer, factually enough. I'm not saying anything. I'm not making any accusations or anything like that, but I'm just saying that they are very similar. What you make with that conclusion, you can do with what you will. But I don't know, it still looks fine, I guess. They're really doubling down on the fact that there's going to be no bugs, which like to see that.
Just don't say it.
Don't say it. If they just did it, it would probably be more impressive. But now they're setting it up so much, so you know there's going to be bugs, and people are
just gonna hunt for 'em.
Yeah, people are going to hunt for them. Be like, oh, you lied, Bethesda.
You know
I
how
should've
good
known.
people can be at finding bugs.
Yeah, even like good and complete
That's why
games, people find bugs.
That's why QA testing is a thing. They hire people to do that.
No, that's true. That's true. I don't know if Todd does that though.
I'm sure they do.
There's no indication.
Although, knowing it's Bethesda, I feel like nobody even plays their games before they get released.
They tie them all together in like a shoestring and then
Yeah.
push them out, and then like, oh no, it doesn't work.
Roll.
What?
Whoa.
What is this? But I don't know. Looks pretty decent, I guess. But yeah, that was pretty much the only big gaming thing, I think. I think that was this week. But of course, we got podcast timing this week because the Nintendo Direct is tomorrow, as of us recording. Nintendo announced it today, and this says coming out tomorrow. I'm like, oh man, it's too bad. So I guess we can make our predictions. We always do this whenever we have podcast timing. I guess I'll set it up by saying that it is a 40-minute live stream. It's their big summer Nintendo Direct, and they are going to be focusing on titles releasing this year. And the big one that they put in the tweet announcing it was they're going to be looking at Pikmin 4. That probably would have been my first prediction, so I'm glad they knocked it out. But do we have any other predictions? What do we think that Nintendo's going to come out with?
Pokemon.
I think there's gonna be Pokemon something. I think DLC for Scarlet and Violet for sure.
Yeah.
I
Don't they
feel like
usually do Pokemon Directs?
They do, but sometimes they squeeze the DLC in Nintendo Directs. I think.
Oh, okay.
And DLCs are not big game.
That's
Yeah.
true.
You're not gonna have a single event for just a DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another Pokemon game coming out soon. I feel like there's not. But they always make like stupid spin-offs, so who knows? It could be like another Let's Go Eevee thingy.
Mystery Dungeon 5.
Or Mystery Dungeon. People would actually get excited about Mystery Dungeon, so.
Yeah, that's true. Pokemon Snap 3.
I was never really a Mystery Dungeon person. I've never really played those. But
I like the one with time and space.
Oh yeah.
And then Sky. Those ones I liked. I never did too much of the. God, what were the first ones called?
I don't remember.
Red and
I don't know.
Blue.
Those ones I never really played. And then the most recent one, which was still maybe like 5-6 years ago, it was kind of from what I remember.
Talking Pokemon RPGs just go kind of weird with me. It's like, I just want to battle them. But yeah, I think.
I mean, at least there's no voice acting. At least
True.
not in the ones I liked. I don't remember what the recent ones.
Nintendo famously does not do any voice acting.
They shouldn't do
grunts
any
and sounds, and they shouldn't.
Yeah, from what I've seen, they don't really do very good voice acting.
No,
Yeah.
they don't. They
Although
always hire like
weirdly-
anime voice actors.
I think
Like,
I
cut
think
that out.
Cooking Mama's gonna come back.
Oh,
Oh heck yeah, never played it, but heck yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Cooking Mama
wait,
4.
it's coming back again because it came back on the PS4 like
Oh,
5 years
did it?
ago. Remember,
Okay, it's
Donkey
coming
made
to
a whole
Switch.
video about it where Gaming
yeah.
Tim was involved.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Gaming Tim. So give me some Cooking Mama. Give me like a rated M edgy game that's like on the Switch, and everybody's gonna be like, ooh.
Ooh, the Switch is coming back.
Yeah. Isn't Call of Duty coming to the Switch? Maybe they'll say something.
I think so. Yeah, I think yeah, because it was funny because PlayStation's been making this huge stink about Call of Duty being owned by Microsoft. That like Microsoft made a huge statement that's like, Call of Duty is coming to the Switch now.
That's what everybody wanted.
Like, oh, have you seen Fortnite on the Switch?
It's crazy.
Pretty rough.
240p.
Yeah. I'm still amazed that the Tears of the Kingdom looks as good as it does. But it still has all of the performance issues that the first game had.
Of course.
But, yeah.
I feel like I don't know if we're gonna get Mario Kart maps or not.
I
I think
don't
it's pretty
know.
soon. Still,
That would
on the
make
last one,
sense. I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be anything too big.
but might be a small boy.
Yeah. I mean, this is their big summer direct, but are we going to be getting anything huge? I don't know. People are still trying to summon the Wind Waker port. I'm going to be a big advocate of that every time the direct happens. Wind Waker, one of my favorite Zelda games. I guess classic Zelda. Classic 3D Zelda, I guess you have to say now, because it sounds like going forward they're going to be Breath of the Wild-esque. That is going to be the new norm. So I don't know. I think it would be cool, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think it would be cool for the Zelda team to kind of split, or not totally split, but maybe have like another team come in and make 2D Zelda games again, so that the classic Zelda formula is still being produced, and this kind of new, genre, whatever form of Zelda is taking, can still continue to evolve and change. I would love a Breath of the Wild type game in a different art style, because I don't know. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion. I've never been a super big fan of cel shaded art style for games. I'm all for super stylized, and I'm also all for gritty realism, but cel shaded just kind of hits this weird middle zone that it's just
It's not done well. It just looks like it's unfinished.
Yeah. But there is like Borderlands is cel shaded, but that is so stylized that it's like
And then
that's
even
its
that
own
game
thing.
is kind of an eyesore after you play it for a while.
True. The thick black outline on everything is very
it gets pretty
extreme.
cluttered.
Yeah, but at least it's distinct. I feel like most modern Nintendo games have taken up the cel-shaded art style, which I guess kind of makes sense if they're going for kind of softer. They don't really like their jagged edges. They left that extreme stuff on the Wii and the GameCube. Now they're making Mario 3D World.
They should just make a super low poly game.
I would love that.
That'd be kind of cool.
They do kind of experiment, but it's only in the Yoshi franchise.
True.
It's like, we're going to do a whole game in claymation.
I don't know if people play this, so we can just do whatever we want.
Yeah. We'll do a whole game where everything is knitted. We'll just do that. Like, that's fun. That's distinct. But yeah, even like Paper Mario, they're just like kind of turning it into like super cartoon poppy. I'm like, everything Nintendo is starting to put out is starting to look the same. Ever since like probably the beginning of the Switch era. I feel like all the Nintendo games are just the same looking. Even Link's Awakening, that remake they did, super bright and stylized. I mean, what are you gonna do with the original Game Boy game? But they just took like the modern Nintendo aesthetic and put it on Link's Awakening. It's like, okay, you don't do anything cool with that. So that's what I want. I want the Zelda team. I really just want Nintendo in general to kind of take another turn, because it feels like they're just kind of spinning in the water. They lost one rudder, so they're just kind of spinning around. They need a new direction, and maybe it's because of Doug Bowser. Shouldn't have gave the villain the president's seat. Although I doubt the Nintendo of America guy is the one that's in charge of game development.
Yeah.
It's probably the Nintendo Japan guy, whatever his name is. But I guess we'll see. We'll see.
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
That's his name.
Oh, Nintendo. Yeah, that should be. Nintendo. It's so hard to say. Nintendo and Doug Bowser.
It's on brand always.
It's always on brand. Okay, but for real though, do you think they gave Doug Bowser the position because of his name?
I feel like the name had something to do with it.
Yeah.
I do too.
Probably.
Like if it came down to two people that were like equally good, I think they choose Doug Bowser because of his name.
True. That is very true. I would pick Doug Bowser.
It's a good PR move.
Well, I mean, you lose Reggie. So,
of course, so you have to like kind of replace him with like someone that at least has like some quirk to him, and not just like some like plain old white bread CEO.
Well, I mean, he doesn't do anything.
No, yeah, but he's got Bowser in his name, so it's more than most CEOs got for him.
His name is Bowser, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that Direct tomorrow. I'm not expecting anything huge. Like, I don't think we're going to be getting the next Mario game or the next Donkey Kong game.
Just for when a new Mario game is announced tomorrow.
Yeah, whatever. People get so excited whenever a Nintendo Direct happens, and it's just like, it's going to be 30 minutes of anime games, and then 5 minutes of indie games that nobody cares about, and then maybe a little sprinkle of something interesting. Okay. Add another. Cut like 5 minutes out of the anime part, and then put 5 minutes into Pikmin 4. Because we know that's going to happen. And I'm actually pro Pikmin 4. I think that's pretty cool. I've never been a fan of the series, but I'm glad to see it continue. Because I like when Nintendo makes weird stuff. So, keep doing that. But that's it for gaming. Don't have a lot to talk about. I still have not beaten Zelda.
There's a new game I'll try for next week. I think the X Defiant open beta starts tomorrow.
X Defiant?
Do you remember that Ubisoft FPS thing that like got announced a while ago?
No.
It's like a super arcadey FPS. Apparently people are saying it's decent.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's Ubisoft, so multiplayer servers might be garbage, but we'll check it out and see.
Oh, this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, is this like, doesn't it have like all Rainbow Six people?
I think
characters?
So. It has something like that.
And then there's like Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, and
But it's made to be super arcadey and like no skill based anything, so
interesting.
Might be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's there's the okay, I'm not sure. Libertad, that might be what, Far Cry 6?
Sounds like it.
Phantoms. I don't know if that's
Splinter Cell?
that might be. Well, no, Echelon is Splinter Cell because they have
okay.
the night vision goggles.
Phantoms?
Phantoms, it looks like Rainbow Six.
Oh, maybe.
That's what it looks like. Cleaners, that's probably Division.
Yep.
Dead Sec.
Dead Space? Is that Ubisoft?
What is this? Cyber Attackers. Oh, is this Watch Dogs?
Oh, Watch Dogs, yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Okay,
People have
yeah.
been saying some semi-decent things about it, but
Interesting. Well, who needs a new Splinter Cell game when
you can just
you
make
can
this instead.
make this? Perfect. I think they are making a new Splinter Cell game. Or wait, no, they are remaking the first Splinter Cell game. And people are mad because I guess they're updating the story to make it more modern. And granted, I don't know what that means.
Good question. Yeah.
If they just like insert like token gay characters and black characters without having, that's
Everybody's just gonna, like,
probably
have a
what that
meltdown.
means.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, because I don't know if Ubisoft is capable of interesting storytelling.
Game about to be boycotted by 3 people.
Well, yeah. So, yeah. Okay. I guess we'll see what happens with that. Give us your opinions next week. But I guess we can move on to movie stuff. We have a little bit of interesting. Yeah, we have something interesting going on. Guillermo del Toro, famous for Pinocchio and nothing else, he did an interview this week with, I think, World of Real, or I'm not sure where it was. That's where I got it. But he did an interview basically saying that he's mostly done making live action movies. He has a couple. He said he has a couple more live action movies that he has planned, and then after that he is going to focus solely on animated movies. And if I were to guess, these are probably going to be stop motion animated. That seems to be, in other interviews I've seen with him, that does seem to be his passion, which I guess kind of makes sense. I don't know. I know he's from Mexico, and I think stop motion was really big. If we're talking like beginning of cinema, like I think stop motion and like silhouette animation was really big in like Central and Eastern Europe. And Pinocchio definitely takes some inspiration from those movies, just in the like very kind of rudimentary but stylized character design of all the characters. Granted, that movie is based on a book, and I believe that the art style of the movie is kind of inspired by the book more so than anything else. But it's kind of interesting because he kind of, in his interview, he kind of like took pot shots at like every single animation studio, which I thought was kind of interesting. Not directly, because he still wants to work in Hollywood, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. I have some quotes here, just because he talks so blunt, that I really, really dig it. But basically, in talking about like how most animated movies are just like, he was talking about like how like they're destructive and they have potential to like harm people's perspectives on how life is. He's like, all of these animated movies are codified into a sort of teenage rom-com, almost emoji-style behavior. If I see a character raising his fucking eyebrow or crossing his arms, having a sassy pose, oh, I hate that shit. And then he went on to say, why does everything act as if they're in a sitcom? I think this is emotional pornography. All of the families are happy and sassy and quick. Everyone has a one-liner. Well, my dad was boring. I was boring. Everybody in my family was boring. We had no one-liners. We're all fucked up. That's what I want to see animated. I would love to see real life in animation. I actually think it's urgent. I think it's urgent to see real life in animation. So, I thought that was very interesting. I would be very interested to see what directly he's talking about. Um,
I think most animated things.
yeah. I'm interested to see like what his views are on especially modern animated stuff. I want to say post Spider-Verse animation. Granted, there is still a lot of trash or like mid stuff coming out of most major studios. I'm looking at you, Pixar. Gotta step it up. Which I guess speaking of that, I saw that I think it was Pete Docter, who is now the like CEO of Pixar, was like, yeah, so like after Toy Story 5 and Inside Out 2, all of our IPs are fair game for a sequel. It's like, no,
Just
stop.
make something new.
Stop. This is the opposite. And he's like, I saw something where he's like, people always criticize us for not being original. Well, you have to consider that all of these properties were once original before. It's like, well, yeah.
Yep, they're not now.
When you made them the first time.
PR team, please like make sure your CEO knows how to talk in not business terms. Just
Yeah.
blatant. It's like it's cheaper and makes more money if we just sequel these things.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he is. I don't know if he's the CEO or if he's like the creative lead, but I think he just took John Lasseter's position. Oh, he is the chief creative officer. So I guess he makes.
Yeah, if you're chief creative officer saying stuff like that, you don't want that.
Yeah. The thing is his movies are great. Like, they're easily some of the standout movies in Pixar's catalog, like Monsters Inc., Up, Inside Out, and Soul. Like, those are all very, very different, and I think they are all great. So I think having him as a chief creative officer makes sense, but not if he's going to just go down this sequel hole that Pixar seems to be stuck in. Where it's like, oh no, people aren't subscribing to Disney Plus. Quick, order another Toy Story. Do it now. Just don't bring back Tim Allen. I don't know if they're gonna bring back Tim Allen.
They might.
Or if they're gonna replace him with Chris Evans. I don't know if enough people saw Lightyear for them to do that.
Pretty sure that movie flopped.
Oh yeah, it did. And so has Elemental, that new one.
Who'd have thought a super generic concept that they had done 10 million times with no interesting animation would not do well.
That's what I'm saying. They need to do something fast. Like, okay, here's something. The new DreamWorks animated movie was announced, and it has a lot of potential. It is, yeah, Orion in the Dark. I think it is a Netflix exclusive movie, but it's written by Charlie Kaufman, who makes like weird, esoteric, artsy movies, like Being John Malkovich or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, like weirdo, like pretentious artsy movies. And for some reason he's making a DreamWorks movie now. Like, oh boy, there's some potential. I think it's about, let me read the synopsis. Orion in the Dark. Wow, the Google thing does not help. Okay, here we go. Premise: Orion seems a lot like your average elementary school kid. Shy, unassuming, harboring a secret crush. But underneath his seemingly normal exterior, Orion is a ball of adolescent anxiety. This is just everything that Guillermo del Toro hates. Completely consumed by irrational fears of bees, dogs, the ocean, cell phone waves, murderous gutter clowns, and even falling off of a cliff. But all of his fears, the thing that he's most
Just
afraid...
the average Floridian.
I know. is what he confronts on a nightly basis, the dark. So when the literal embodiment of his worst fear pays him a visit, Dark whisks Orion away on a roller coaster ride around the world to prove there is nothing to be afraid of in the night. As the unlikely pair grows closer, Orion must decide if he can learn to accept the unknown, to stop letting fear control his life, and finally embrace the joy of living. Okay. I don't know. It doesn't sound like a Charlie Kaufman movie, but yeah. I think the only Charlie Kaufman movie I've seen is Being John Malkovich, which does not make me want to watch any more Charlie Kaufman movies, but I probably will. I know a lot of people really like I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which does have Todd in it.
I love Todd.
So it has Todd and the like nurse killer lady from Fargo season 4. I think it's those two. I already know the twist of it though, so I won't enjoy it as much probably. I don't remember where I got it, but yeah. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting for Guillermo to completely pivot, because up until Pinocchio, I think he's been almost exclusively live action. Even Pacific Rim, which is, mostly CGI, is still technically live action. Like, the Star Wars prequels are technically live action, if you think about it. But, yeah, I'm definitely in. I think Pinocchio was my favorite movie of last year. So, I'm with it. Just keep making movies, Guillermo. Don't stop. That's all I ask. But with that, I think we'll transition into the movie review hour. I watched 3 very, very different movies this week. I was trying to keep in mind that you said that this week was going to be very depressing.
That's been postponed to next week.
Okay, perfect. Because I did not. Today I was like, I don't know what I should watch, because I watched 2 movies and I'm like, what's the third one? I gotta watch a third one. So I was just like kind of scrolling through my Just watch list, and I saw Rashomon by Akira Kurosawa. I'm like, oh, I could be in. I like some Kurosawa stuff. Let's throw it on. And it's only an hour and 25 minutes. That's epic. It's like the shortest Kurosawa thing I've ever seen. Seven Samurai is like 3.5 hours. I don't remember how long Ron is, but that's probably still up there. So I'm like, oh boy, short Kurosawa goodness, this is what I want. And what I got was maybe one of the most depressing movies I have seen. I'm going to save it for the end, because I'm going to have to issue a warning for people. So we'll save that for the end. But I guess starting off, I will continue my Evil Dead saga that I started last week, where I watched the first 2 Evil Dead movies, and I watched, I guess you would call this the third one, even though it has almost nothing to do with the original Evil Dead movies. But it does have Ash Campbell in it. Well, wait, no. I don't know what Ash's last name is. Ash versus the Evil Dead is probably his last name.
That's his last name, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it has Ash in it, and there are Evil Dead people. There's a Necronomicon, and there are Deadites. But aside from that, this is not a horror movie at all. It is a fantasy movie, because, I guess, spoilers for the Evil Dead 2. The end of Evil Dead 2, Ash gets sent back in time to 1300 AD in England.
Yes.
Don't ask me how or why.
It's just normal things that happen.
It just happens. You just kind of have to accept it. He gets sent back to 1300 AD to, I don't even know what you would call it, but there's like two warring English kingdoms, I guess, and he's caught in the middle of it. But also in the middle of it are a bunch of demons that have been attacking both sides. But both sides are just too g-dang stubborn to stop fighting with each other instead of working together to stop the demons. So Ash comes along, and as we've discussed, he is a big, stupid idiot. I think I described him as, in my notes, as being like if Han Solo was sent back into the past. But that is that's almost an insult to Han Solo because, man, Bruce Campbell, his character is even dumber in this movie than he is in The Evil Dead 2. And that's saying something because he took his girlfriend to the same cabin that all of his friends got possessed in and he had to murder. But he took his girlfriend there because he thought it'd be romantic, and then the same thing happened again.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? And also, he just kept listening to the recording where he's like, I am going to now do a phonetic pronunciation of the summoning words for the demon. And he's like, oh, this is interesting. I'll listen to this. What a stupid idiot. But yeah, this time he he goes back to medieval England, and they're like, oh no, we need you to get the Necronomicon, and if you give us the Necronomicon, then we'll send you back to your time. And he's like, okay, perfect. You just gotta say these 3 words. When you pick up the Necronomicon, you gotta say these 3 words. And if you don't say them, then you're going to bring the army of the dead to life. And he's like, okay, I got it. Easy. So, hilarity ensues because, as you can imagine, he doesn't quite get all the words out. He remembers the first 2, but then he doesn't quite remember the last one. And the last word is Nikto. And there was a long segment where he was just saying a bunch of words that started with N. And then he kind of like looked around, and I'm like, oh no, is he going to say the N-word? If they use this as a lazy joke where he like looks around and then just says the N-word as like the last word, I'm going to be so pissed. But they didn't do that, thankfully.
Would have been pretty good.
I don't know. I would have had mixed feelings because it really would not have fit the tone of this movie at all. But yeah, he just like says the first 2 words and then just kind of like says like like coughs, and then picks up the Necronomicon. And as you can imagine, the army of the dead is brought back to life, including an evil clone of himself that leads the army of the dead to attack the nearby kingdom to get the Necronomicon. And his girlfriend, which he falls in love with, like a a medieval English lady who he's like, oh, you're like, your primitiveness is showing because you're so stupid because you don't know how a shotgun works. Like, what the hell? So it's kind of it is not a horror movie at all. I don't even think you need to necessarily have seen The Evil Dead 2 or The Evil Dead 1 to see The Army of Darkness. I thought that The Evil Dead 2 was like, hey, The Evil Dead made money, here's a little bit of a budget. But this movie especially is like, okay, Darkman made money. Now you get even more money to make your little Evil Dead movie. And he's like, awesome, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to make a fantasy movie that has demons in it and Bruce Campbell because we're best friends. But yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. And also a little bit of a fun fact. So it's written directed by Sam Raimi, but it's also co-written by Ivan Raimi, who is Sam Raimi's brother, which can you believe that Sam Raimi put his brother in films that
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Ted Raimi is in every single Sam Raimi movie. I'm trying to think who he is in Spider-Man. He's, do you remember in Spider-Man 2 where J. Jonah Jameson is like, oh, we need to think of a name for this guy with robotic arms. And then there's like the guy, he's like, you should call him Doc Ock. And he's like, that's stupid. Oh, I know, Dr. Octopus or Doc Ock. And he's like, that's Ted Raimi.
Nice.
Yeah, and he's in this one. I don't remember if he's in the first Evil Dead, but he was in the Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. But yeah, he's just in everything. And then Ivan Raimi is not even. He's a emergency room doctor, in I think their home state, but like he just kind of like Sam Raimi's like, hey buddy, why don't you come down and help me write this fantasy movie? And then they just kind of like chill out and have fun and write a script together, and I think that's kind of awesome. So yeah, this guy has like a couple credits, and it's all co-writing credits with his brother, and I think that's just fun. So there you go, Army of Darkness, check it out. It's on Max.
Who's a Max?
Who's a Max?
It's a great question. I don't know if Discovery owns all of the Evil Dead movies, but now they're on. I need to
discover who Max is.
That's, yeah. There's so much trash on there now. It's kind of crazy. Although I will say that Whose Line Is It Anyway is on there now, and that's a good show. I was rewatching some of that. Like, oh boy, I love Colin Mockery. Is that the only other thing that's on Discovery that I like? Is it just The Evil Dead and Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Probably. There's some good cooking shows on there, but that's about it.
My girlfriend really likes My 600-Pound Life for some reason.
Ah, yes.
I don't like that show at all. I watched a couple episodes with her because she was watching it, and like, man, this sucks. Like, everything about it is so fake. And I think this has more to do with reality TV and why I don't really like reality TV. But like, I don't know if either of you have seen an episode of My 600-Pound Life.
Not really. For some reason, like 2 weeks ago, I was on a binge of like videos of like almost like small documentaries about either like extremely overweight people or like what causes like the obesity epidemic in the U.S. So I kind of will know the stuff you're talking about.
Fructose corn syrup.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be talking about any of that. I'm just like the show has narration from the people who are overweight, and
yeah.
There was like this one part where this lady was like, I'm doing the diet my own way, where I'm having a little snack every now and again just to satisfy my cravings. And then my girlfriend's like, see, that's why people like don't lose the weight, because they do the diet their own way. They should just listen to Dr. Now. And I'm like, babe, they scripted this.
It's also an addiction, so it's not just as easy as just like...
Yeah. Yes. But also it's like... This lady had to come into a sound booth like months and months after they shot this footage, and then she read this script that they wrote about their like her own diet, and it's like, I don't know if this actually happened. It probably didn't. I don't know why. It's just all stuff like that where it's like, I'm finally able to do all of the things that I've always wanted to do, and I'm like, that's what a producer would say. You a coward.
It's garbage TV, but sometimes it's entertaining.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's Ghost Adventures on there now.
Oh, yeah. Ghost Adventures with Zach Baggins. Hell
yes, yeah. It's so bad.
I love Zach
There's
Baggins.
like 26 seasons of it, too.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, how does he do this without going insane?
I don't know.
Ancient aliens do it.
That too. Well, I mean, like the
those
first couple
people are
of seasons,
crazy.
he's like genuinely interested in like
Oh, yeah,
capturing photos and stuff.
Mhm.
And then like the most recent seasons, they're just like making up so much stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh my god.
It's kind of crazy. He has a haunted museum in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And you have to sign a waiver.
God.
Not because like there's actual like dangerous stuff in there. Like a lot of the stuff in there is like kind of cool, like true crime memorabilia. Like
Yeah.
there's like Ed Gein's like barrel, like stuff like that, where it's like he gets like these memorabilia from serial killers, which is kind of exploitative, but this is Zach Baggins we're talking about.
I mean, yeah.
But he makes you sign a waiver in case you like pass out from being scared to death.
Oh my god.
That you can't sue the haunted museum for being too scared. I don't think that's necessary, but I guess it gets you in the mood when you walk in. It's like you have to sign this waiver. Ooh. But yeah, I love Zach Baggins. He's the best.
He's such a great guy.
I would say so. Yeah. But yeah, Max is a hellhole. But every once in a while, I'm like, oh, that's on here now? That's fun. But that's like 1 out of like 200 things that's on there now. So it's few and far between. But let's talk about a movie that's not on Max. It's not on anything. I don't know if I've already talked about this movie on the podcast, but I just rewatched it. It is the hit film Ed Wood. Have I talked about this movie on the podcast?
Maybe.
Okay,
I don't remember.
I don't know if I've done an in-depth review
don't
of this movie. It is maybe one of my favorite movies of all time. I recently just got the Blu-ray of it. Used some of my birthday money to get a $10 Blu-ray of Ed Wood from 2011, which was kind of nice because when I put it in and, you know, played it, it started with some previews of upcoming films. And one of them was like Frankenweenie. I'm like, oh no, this is like
I love Frankenweenie.
It's like from 2011. No, not wait. Is that Frank? Yeah, the one where his dog comes back to life. That's Frankenweenie.
Yeah.
I get that in like Corpse Bride because they're all kind of like those Tim Burton animated things. I haven't seen any of them, so I don't know. But yes, I rewatched this movie. For those who don't know, it is a movie by Tim Burton, and it stars Johnny Depp as Ed Wood, who was a real director, a real bad director, if you will. Funny stuff. Yes, he directed the infamous movie Plan 9 from Outer Space, hailed by many to be one of the worst movies of all time. And of course, whenever anybody says that, they don't actually mean the worst movie of all time, they mean the most entertainingly bad movie of all time. I have not seen Plan 9 from Outer Space. Me and my girlfriend threw it on last week, and we got like 10 minutes in. I'm like, this is boring. Because it's a movie from the 50s. Not only that, it's a sci-fi movie from the 50s, and half of it is stock footage. That's kind of Ed Wood's thing. But I think before I talk about the movie, I want to preface that I think this is Tim Burton's best movie. And I also think that this is maybe Johnny Depp's best performance, because Johnny Depp is not playing a kooky character. He is playing a real person. And yes, he's kind of hamming it up, but in the way that everybody is, because the movie came out in, I think, the late 90s, or no, early 90s. But it takes place in the 50s. It is a biopic of Ed Wood and his rise to, I don't even want to say popularity, because he was not popular at all. He only gained popularity after his death, when like a major critic was like, this guy's the worst director of all time, and then people knew about him. But like when he was making stuff, nobody knew who Ed Wood was. So the entire movie is both like shot as a 50s movie, and everybody's doing like campy transatlantic accents. So like they're all in. It is super corny and campy and fun. It is not accurate. It is not an accurate portrayal of Ed Wood's life, but I think it's really really good at one thing, and that is the relationship that Ed Wood had with Bela Lugosi. For those who don't know, when you think of Dracula and the like slick back hair with the cape and the kind of like clawing hand movements, that's Bela Lugosi in the like late 20s Dracula movie. He pretty much defined what we think of with vampires. I guess technically you could say that this was a adaptation of Nosferatu, but I'm just going to say it's the first Dracula movie because it pretty much is. So, but this movie takes place 30 years after that. At this point, Bela Lugosi has been washed up. He's not getting any roles. He is a drug addict. He is addicted to morphine. And him and Ed Wood just kind of have this chance encounter. And they kind of both help each other to for Ed to kind of get into movie making and for Bela Lugosi to kind of get out of this rut. And that part is true. Bela Lugosi is in a lot of early Ed Wood movies like Glen or Glenda or what is it? It's like the Bride of the Monster. It used to be the Bride of the Atom, and then they changed the name. And of course, Bela Lugosi's last movie is Plan 9 from Outer Space. Because Ed Wood took some footage of Bela Lugosi like leaving his house like right before he died, like a couple days before he died. And he didn't like do anything with that footage for a minute, and then he decided to make the sci-fi movie with funding from a Baptist church, which that whole thing in the movie is true, because the Baptist church wanted to make movies on the 12 apostles. And Ed Wood is like, hey, if you make a sci-fi movie, which are really in with the kids these days, maybe we can get enough funding for your 12 Apostles movies. One for each apostle. That's how much money you're going to make from Plan 9 from Outer Space. Spoiler alert, they made virtually no money from Plan 9 from Outer Space. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, what I love about the movie is the I guess on-screen. I don't know if chemistry is the right word, but let me see. Yeah, Martin Landau. He won a supporting actor Oscar for this movie. Pretty much the only Oscar this movie got. It also got best makeup, but it was makeup and for Martin Landau for playing Bela Lugosi. The chemistry that Johnny Depp and Martin Landau have is kind of crazy. It kind of goes to show how good of an actor Johnny Depp is when he isn't like caked in makeup and playing a pirate or Willy Wonka or any you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying a corny Johnny Depp performance. When he's playing a real person, he's like really good. So, yeah, I would highly recommend this movie if it ever comes out on anything, because it is. In all of my time of knowing about this movie, it has never been on any streaming service. I think it's kind of gone under the radar. It's become a kind of underappreciated gem. It definitely gets overshadowed by Tim Burton's earlier work. Like, this one is like right on the cusp of when Tim Burton started to like dramatically crash in terms of like quality. Where like in the late 80s, you had like Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands and Batman. And then like Ed Wood was like right there, and then Mars Attacks, and then it was just all downhill from there. Then it was like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and the Alice in Wonderland movie. And it was like, oh no, stop. Oh, it's like Tim Burton's style like became a commodity at that point. And it just like he completely lost all innovation. But this is that one movie that came in between those two eras. And I would argue it's his best one. I really, really love it. And I think some of that, too, is that, having made movies, have been a low budget filmmaker as a kid, you know, there's a lot of, fun stuff that they do with that. Like, they're shooting a scene that, they're lighting it in the forest with headlights. And they don't have any permits, so they have to kind of shoot everything on the down low and hope nobody comes by and gets us in trouble. Yeah, it's full of like really fun lines. There's a lot of heart to it, and the kind of the community that Ed Wood kind of has around him is so interesting. And I guess one of the most important things I didn't even mention about the movie is that Ed Wood was a cross-dresser, which in the 50s was obviously very, very different than it is today. But the people that he surrounds himself with, this kind of group of people that all make movies with him, they're so open and accepting about that, and that's just so cool to see, especially when they contrast that with other characters of the movie being, I guess what you would say, historically accurate in their treatment of that. And that was all true. Like, Ed Wood was a World War II veteran, and I think there's a line in the movie where it's like he paratrooped into Germany wearing a bra and panties. And it's like in the movie, I don't know if this is what he said in real life, but in the movie, it's like, I wasn't so much scared that I was going to get killed by the Germans. I was more scared that I was going to get wounded and that the medics were going to find my secret. I'm like, ooh, that's a great line. So yeah, please watch Ed Wood if you get the chance. Very, very good movie about some kooky characters, and it's based on a true story, kind of. Asterisk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's talk about a sad movie. Finally, we'll close out with a sad movie. Rashomon. I'm okay. Here's the warning. Leave now. If you are
Get out of here.
if you are sensitive about issues related to sexual assault, because the whole movie revolves around it. So it's going to be pretty hard to talk about this movie without talking about it. So if that stuff makes you uncomfortable, then, feel free to leave. But yeah, I watched this movie knowing nothing about it, which maybe was a mistake. I had heard, people joke about this movie, being like, oh, I don't even remember the jokes. I just remember like seeing like a meme about it today. And I'm like, oh, I should check that out. But yeah, it is rough. So it is only an hour and 25 minutes long. It's very concise. But it is very heavy. The entire crux of the movie is that it is four people's account of a rape and murder of a woman and her husband. So, and each perspective kind of changes, I would say, key details about the event. But the one thing that is constant is that there's a woman and her husband. Her husband is a samurai. Oh yeah, this takes place in feudal Japan, because it's a Kurosawa movie. And they are walking on the road and they are attacked by a bandit. And that bandit ties up the husband, assaults the woman, and then from there it's a little bit up in the air what happens. But what we know happens is that the husband is dead. The samurai is dead. He is found by a local like lumberjack, I guess, and reported to the police. And so we get the bandit's account first, because he is captured by some other person, but he is on the samurai's horse and has the samurai's sword, I think. And so he is captured, but he kind of tells his story, and it's, he's like, yeah, I knew that you guys were going to have my head eventually, so whatever, I'll just tell you what happened. But his story is a little bit, it's masochistic. It's more evil than it probably should be. And he's like gloating about what he did and how, even after this like horrendous act that he just did, he put down the samurai honorably. Like that was going to save him. I don't know. And then the woman comes in, and I don't know. I don't want to say that this movie doesn't treat women, doesn't portray women right, but I think what it's trying to show is that this woman, maybe it's tough. It's tough to talk about this because obviously it was a different time. It came out in 1950. And I'm not sure. I was trying to think of historical stuff happening during this time in Japan. Is this a response to how American soldiers were treating Japanese women in the occupation? If so, why not have it be more directly about that? But also, I don't know if the occupying government would have liked that very much. So maybe you kind of have to discuss
The Japanese were actually worse to their own women.
Oh, okay. Well,
Search comfort women for details. Or comfort girls, I think was the term.
Okay, well, I won't do that.
Well, I think most of those were Chinese and Korean.
Yeah, I think they were kind of like prisoner of war situation, but...
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. But the reason I say that it's kind of hard to talk about is that the woman's story... I don't want to say that it absolves her of guilt, but seeing the other three stories does kind of, I don't want to say paints her in a bad light, but it does kind of raise this kind of morally gray thing where obviously what was done to her was bad, but in some of the other stories she is this is tough. I don't want to come across as a bigot or anything, or a woman hater, but
which is true.
Which is true.
This guy hates women.
So
with a passion.
I don't, but I'm going to try to be blunt with this because the movie is very blunt, where she is shown to be into it, and or demand that the bandit kill the samurai after the event happens. And for some people claim that it's because she has essentially dishonored herself, and having two people know about that is she can't go on living. She's like, either you kill him or you kill me, or you kill yourself, because I can't have more than one person knowing what went on today. Or she's like, you should kill that samurai because I want to be with you, bandit. Oh, bandit, I love you so much. You can probably guess whose story that one was. But yeah, and then of course there's a medium that tells the dead person's story, the samurai. His version of the story is a little weird, but I don't know. I guess I should say spoilers, but also this movie is from 1950, so.
And I was just gonna get to it next week too.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. But the fourth story is the guy who found the body, and originally he said that he found the body in the aftermath. He was just kind of walking along, found a woman's hat, found like a samurai's hat, and then kind of went to investigate, found a dead body, and then reported it to police. Turns out he was actually kind of a witness, and he saw at least his version of the events. Because I don't think it's ever explicitly said that his version is 100% correct, but at least what he saw. And something that's maybe more of an indicator that his story is the correct one is that in the bandit story there is a fight scene between him and the samurai, and and part of that is him gloating where he's like, I remember we crossed swords exactly 23 times, and I remember being very impressed because no one has ever crossed swords with me more than 20 times. So when that one is shot, it's shot more like a traditional fight scene in I guess, a samurai movie. But in the lumberjack story, it is not like that at all. Like, it is like feral. They are just kind of like swinging all willy nilly. Like, they are not like disciplined at all, and like they're throwing dirt in each other's eyes and like running around. They're falling all over themselves. Like, and some of that might be that the lumberjack does not have a very high opinion of these people, and in his accounting of the story, he's describing them as being bad at what they're doing, I guess. But yeah, it's a very tough movie to watch, and there's been a lot of things, just like reading the premise of it and different things. There's one thing that kind of sticks out in all of the premises, and that they describe this as the finest film ever to investigate the philosophy of justice. I don't know if that is true. I don't think justice is the word I would use, because the whole thing is basically, I guess I'll talk about the ending of the movie because I think it's kind of important. The end of the movie, there's a baby that has been abandoned. And basically this whole thing has been a recollection of the lumberjack and the monk, both of who were witnesses at this trial. So they saw all of these stories firsthand, and then the last one is just told by the lumberjack here. And there is a character that just so happens to kind of walk by. And it's raining, and they're hiding under the ruins of a pagoda, and they're just kind of like, just talking to kind of pass the time. And this guy who just so happens to walk by is kind of an asshole. And after all the stories are told, they notice, the baby starts crying. And the guy that's an asshole walks over and steals the kimono that was, the baby was using as a blanket. Whoever abandoned the baby left as, some sort of protection for the baby from the elements, and there was an amulet for its protection against demons. That guy steals it. And the lumberjack says, "What are you doing? You're stealing the one thing that the baby has. What are you doing? You're so selfish." And then that guy comes back and he's like, you were able to fool the court, but you weren't able to fool me. Because all of the stories bring into account that there is this pearl dagger that the woman had. And all 4 accounts, I guess, don't mention where that dagger went. So the asshole guy's like, where'd it go, huh? Because, no one else has it. And you came by, who else stole it? And so then that kind of just like, oh, so maybe, so the one guy whose story maybe is correct, he maybe stole this dagger and sold it. Which, honestly, at that point, is it even stealing if the guy's dead? Grave robbing, I don't know. He wasn't in a grave, he
I
was just
mean,
dead.
I believe the I believe Japanese back then would have been a lot more spiritual with like ancestors and stuff, maybe.
Yeah, it is kind of implied to be
So
like
back
that.
then, yeah, for sure would have been like robbing from a spirit kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. I don't know my Japanese religion well, so don't
I
chastise
don't.
me for it.
I don't either. But yeah, so then that kind of like breaks the trust between the monk and the lumberjack, and the monk kind of takes the baby aside, and the lumberjack reaches to help, and he's like, "Oh, why? You gonna steal the something else from the baby? Maybe the clothes off the baby? What are you gonna steal?" And the lumberjack kind of breaks down and says, "I have 6 kids at home. Um, you know, adding one more is not gonna hurt anything." Like kind of in a way to be like, I need to redeem myself for this, for these actions. And the monk kind of is like, oh, okay. Because the entire movie, the monk has been having this crisis of faith where he's like, is the world unredeemable? Are we living in hell? Like that's what's going through his head right now. Like after hearing all these accounts, he's like, and none of them add up. None of them make any sense. They're all vastly different. And he's just like, nobody trusts anybody. Everybody is super selfish. Like, and even like when he's having this existential crisis, the asshole guy is like, stop preaching to me. I don't need another sermon. Tell me the story about how the woman got assaulted. Which I don't know what that's indicative of, but yeah, it is very it's a tough one. And I don't know. I kind of feel bad because I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. But really, I was not like the accounts. This honestly could have been maybe a short movie, and it would have been fine, just because there's a lot of downtime in the accounts, and I recognize that Kurosawa was a very visual guy. I think that's maybe the highlight of all of his movies, is especially how he shoots nature and the elements, like the rain in the kind of wraparound segment is used very fittingly. I mean, it's not like groundbreaking like by today's standards, but if we're talking 1950, the way that this movie is shot is kind of incredible. So, but yeah, it is. It's very slow for an hour and a half. It does kind of feel that, and yeah, but I think it is an important movie. I don't know if it is the finest film ever to investigate the philosophy of justice, but I think it is a very, very good movie. But tough to watch, so be careful about that. If you're sensitive to it, skip this one. And I also think that there may be better modern examples that have maybe done this a little better. Because that's kind of the rough thing with a lot of Kurosawa stuff, especially, is that he was such a gifted storyteller that everybody's ripped him off. And some have even ripped him off and done really, really good things with it. So, yeah, it's a little rough. Like, Seven Samurai is like I mean, it's Bug's Life. And like, Hidden Fortress is Star Wars. So, it's a little unfortunate, but it is kind of fun to go back and see where all this stuff started from. And, I mean, you're definitely not wasting your time here. So, and a lot of his stuff is on Max. So
There you go.
there you go. That was on HBO Max before. that old antiquated thing that
That
nobody
doesn't
remembers
exist.
anymore. Yeah, but yeah, so this was not a Discovery edition, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is my favorite Kurosawa I've seen. I think that still kind of goes to Ron, but that movie is just very, very distinct, especially in the colors. Because I don't know if that's his only movie in color, but it's definitely one in a handful. And the way that color is used in that movie is kind of amazing. Um, Especially when you consider that Kurosawa was like half deaf and blind while making that movie. And he was basically just like painting things and then showing it to his DP to be like, hey, can you do this? And then that's how everything was shot, which, I mean, it looks like everything is a painting, and the establishing shots in that movie are phenomenal. I would love to have like a 4K copy of that movie and watch it on a good TV, because I saw it like on a projector that someone was running in like a classroom. I'm like, oh, this movie deserves so much more than that. But yeah, I mean, check out Kurosawa's stuff. Like, this is not a this is not a profound thing to say, because he's maybe one of the best directors of all time. But good stuff. I don't watch a lot of Japanese movies, so it's pretty good. I'm more of a Korean man myself, but pretty good stuff. But that's all the movies I watched. There's no through line or anything. They're all over the place. Maybe I'll try to keep them light for next week if it's gonna be a little heavy with the propaganda segment. So we'll see. But that's all for me. I will throw it on over to James for music.
Me?
Yes.
Jameson.
Oh my god. This week was kind of crazy.
What?
Great.
King Gizzard was the least interesting thing that happened.
Oh. Okay.
So I'll start with that, I guess. But King Gizzard did release their album. I'm not going to say the full name of it. I've done
Very
that in the
well.
past. Petrodragonic Apocalypse. We'll call it that.
Okay.
But yeah, that came out this week. 7 songs, 48 minutes. Nothing like too crazy. I don't know how to feel about this album yet. It's enjoyable, but it's not like something that was needed, I think. It is very thrash metal-y. Like, the riffs are crazy quick, like, at all times on every single song. I will say, like, I think Gila Monster is still my least favorite track. I think when that single came out, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. It taps into that weird, like, dad metal, 80s metal type of cliche, which is fine, but, like, it's not my thing. But, I mean, the playing is really good on here. Like, their drummer is probably dead now, after all of the bass drum and whatever he had to do with that, because it's like double, triple kicks. I'm like, you could have used 2 drummers for this record. But yeah, I mean, it's fast. It's really fun. It's kind of exciting, but like at the same time, it's like, if I'm going for King Gizzard for metal, I'm going to Rat's Nest, absolutely. First, like that album, I feel like is more inventive. It's got more like a through line like message, and it's kind of more out there. I just really like how like kind of dirty it is too. But with this one, it's like it is thrash metal, and you get that in every single song, to the point where they kind of blend together. This might just be more of a critique of thrash metal than it is the album, because the album is really well made. But I feel like with most thrash metal, I need to like be able to understand what your thematic concept is, and it needs to like warrant what's happening. I think Metallica's first couple of albums is like the perfect example, where it's like they have a strong message, the lyrics are understandable, and the song's energy matches that. With this, I feel like I couldn't really understand the vocals because they were doing the weird gravelly thing, which I'm not the biggest fan of to begin with King Gizzard. But I don't know. So I'm kind of torn, because it is really well made. Like, it's still King Gizzard quality when it comes to playing and composition and stuff like that. I think the ending of the album, like the last 5 minutes, they go into this really cool like techno industrial metal crossover thing, and it's really fun. And I would wish they would have done that more, just because it is like riffs like constantly and guitar solos and all of this stuff constantly for about like 40 minutes, and then you get something like that. So it's like I wanted more when it comes to that, because they know how to do so many genres. I just feel like if you're going to do a genre like this, you need to add some more of your personal element to it, which is what they did at Rat's Nest. So I don't know. It's still pretty good. I still rated it kind of high. But when it comes to King Gizzard stuff, it's not one of my favorites of their last couple, which also isn't saying enough, like too much, because the 3 albums they dropped in October last year were all pretty great.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any worries about them going forward. It was just like this one, it's like, eh, I'm going Rat's Nest if I want metal King Gizzard, but still pretty decent. I do really like Flamethrower, the closer, and the opener, Motor Spirit, and Dragon, the second single they did, are all pretty great. The rest I can kind of take or leave. They kind of, I don't need a full album full of this kind of sound for me personally, but still pretty decent. So that happened. I don't know if they're halfway through the year. They could pop out another one. Who knows? It's King Gizzard. They could pop out
That's
3
true.
more. Who knows?
They probably will.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they drop 4 albums last year?
I think 5 technically if you count the remix album.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Oh yeah, Made in Timeland technically came out last year, so yeah, that'd be 5.
Wow.
Yeah, they're a little crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that. That was definitely the least interesting thing that happened this week. This is kind of wild in the fact that like I anticipated nothing, and then all of a sudden all these random artists just like popped out of nowhere, and they're like, hey. The first being Sigaros, which is back after, when was their last album? Like 10 years ago. They released a single on last Wednesday and then dropped the album right away on Friday, which is the way I like things to be done, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they released. I'm gonna. It's Icelandic things are so hard to pronounce, so I'm gonna mispronounce everything. But they released Blueberg, which is like a 7-minute single. Absolutely gorgeous. The album definitely like leads into a more ambient and like neoclassical kind of thing, modern classical. But yeah, they dropped Ata at last Friday. It's 10 songs, 56 minutes, so they're long boys like they usually bring. But this thing is spectacular. Like this is one of the most pretty sounding albums ever that I've heard in a long time. Which isn't saying much when it comes to them, because like everything they do is kind of really pretty, but anything they've done since like Talk in 2005 hasn't been for me like top notch. I mean, their first 2 records are like near perfect, but this one kind of like hones in that kind of style more, takes out more of the heavy guitar and brings in more like violin and classical elements, and it works really really well. Despite it being ambient, like Jonsi still is here with vocals quite a bit. They're pretty unintelligible, not because they're not Icelandic, but because there's not a lot of words going on. It's more just like vocalization with the crescendos and stuff, which is great. It's great. It's just gorgeous stuff. And surprisingly, like these songs do kind of stand out, despite it being like this more ambient kind of free flowing piece. There are separations between songs, and you do get like a little bit of different motifs. It definitely borrows from a lot of their past albums and kind of recycles it in a really cool way, which I think bands should do more. Where it's like if you have this big of a discography with like a lot of different sounds, just like compile all those for one album and see what happens. But yeah, it's gorgeous. It's fantastic. One of the best albums to come out this year, and I had no idea. I don't think anybody had any idea it was coming. Like Wednesday, there's like, here's a song, and then the album's like right away on Friday. Especially for after such a long break too, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, fantastic. I don't have too much to say about it, just because like it is just something you have to listen to. You can't really talk about stuff like that, especially ambient music. But it's hard to describe. You just kind of have to get in there. But very pretty. There is kind of a melancholic undertone to it, but it's not too heavy for it to be like sad music or anything. It's just like get your headphones on. Like it's meditative. It's fantastic. Yeah, so really great. Possibly a top five album this year. Well, it isn't my top five technically. So um, it was just weird seeing Sigaros next to Lil Yachty in my top albums. So I'll let you guess which one's higher than the other. But but really,
Controversy.
really, really, really great. Just I love surprise drops like this too. It's so fun. But yeah, great stuff there. Other band that I had no idea was just gonna do anything. Slow Dive uh, just released a single today, and their new album's coming out September 1st. This is also off of a hiatus of like I think 6 years. The last was 2017. So yeah. Um, so they're back with Kisses. I think the album is called, what is the album called here? Everything is Alive. It's only 8 songs and it's gonna be like 41 minutes, so which means that we're actually gonna get like some pretty long songs, which is great. I feel like my main complaint with Souvlaki, despite it being like, you know, amazing, is that some of the songs are too short. I would have liked him to like ride and play more with it. So it looks like we're getting something like that here. It's interesting because the single sounds a lot like more modern indie rock, like something you'd hear from like a Soccer Mommy or like Always, where they do play with shoegazy elements, but it's not like super clouded in that. The song kind of starts as just a standard indie rock song and then eventually evolves into the classic kind of slow dive, spacey, kind of ethereal area, which is really great. So, really excited for this. Sounds like they're going to be kind of hitting hard again. I apparently their self-titled from 2017 is like really great. I need to listen to that. I think it. I don't know if that one's on my wheel. I thought one of them were, but if not, I will update it. I need to update that anyways. But definitely looking forward to that. I need to listen to their whole discography eventually because it feels like they don't miss from what I'm hearing. So, but
Okay.
excited for this thing. Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear how modern day slow dive sounds since I haven't really had any exposure to that besides this one song. But exciting stuff.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
And then another thing that just happened today, we got really great podcast timing today.
Oh.
The Smile are back. With a new
Already?
single. Already.
Just a couple
Oh.
years
Released-
ago?
Yeah, they released an album last year,
Oh.
and they're back. So I'm hoping this is leading up to another album. But I am glad that they're like actively pursuing this thing, and it's not just like a one-off thing, like some of these like side band things are that groups kind of go into. But yeah, Smile is the Radiohead light, basically. It's just Tom and Johnny from Radiohead, and then you have Tom Skinner from Sons of Kemet picking up the drums. But their album last year was really great. I really enjoyed it. So they're back like right away. I know when they're on tour, they've been playing some songs that weren't on that record, so I think they've had more material, which is why this is coming so quickly after. But this new one, Bending Hectic, is 8 minutes long. It's basically a Black Country New Road song mixed with Radiohead, which is going to be fantastic, obviously. It's very delicate. It's very pretty. The playing on it is fantastic. The time signature is really cool. Definitely is different from what they usually do. I definitely think they're taking inspiration from these like kind of post-punk revival things that are going on in the UK with your Black Midis and your Black Countries and your Squid and everything, which is cool because I feel like Tom and Johnny will kind of own that. Johnny just does like movie soundtracks, whatever. Like he's a one-man band basically. And Tom's vocals are still holding up somehow. I don't know how that man can sing in a falsetto for like that many years and still be able to hit it. But it's fantastic. It's a slow build, definitely, but like, I mean, I listened to it in the car. There wasn't too much to it that I could pick out, but once you listen to it in headphones, there's like a lot of really, really, really cool nuances happening there that are just fantastic. Definitely has some Ants from Up There influence. This kind of more delicate quiet into kind of a building crescendo. But really fantastic. One of the best songs or best singles out this year, I would say. So hopefully this is leading up to an album. Nothing's confirmed yet, but I'm sure this will be leading into something. Just knowing that they do have like 3 or 4 songs that have not been released on Spotify yet, that they performed live. So very excited for that. This week is just basically a whole bunch of older bands coming back and releasing music and still it being like extremely high quality. So all out of nowhere too. Like there was no indication for any of these things. Music's been kind of weird this year because like singles have been just dropping on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Mondays.
Oh yeah, it's been weird.
I feel like my Friday radar is like super light now, besides like full albums. But everything else is like releasing on Mondays and like Tuesdays, which is kind of nice because we get podcast timing, but it's just random.
Yeah, I don't get it. Why everything? Is it all like indie stuff?
No, it's like big name stuff. Like it's just because like the Hillbillies song, like that came out on like a Monday.
Oh, that's true.
So I don't really know what's going on, but I kind of enjoy it. It's better to like kind of drip feed it instead of just like Friday. Here's a dump of music to listen to.
Right.
But yeah, sounds like Travis Scott's Utopia is going to be dropping soon. There's rumors that that's almost done.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. I think Lil Uzi's about to drop too at the end of the month. So some really big name releases coming up. We have Swans this Friday, so I'll be having a hopefully in-depth review of that next week, depending on how much I can talk about a Swans album.
Yeah.
But that'll be the 2 hour and 1 minute album waiting for me to somehow get through this weekend. So, but yeah, we'll see. It's getting some pretty good reviews. I think my vinyl's coming. The weird thing with the vinyl on this record is that like it just straight up does not have the 43-minute song because I don't think there's a way
Yeah.
to split it into vinyl that is appropriate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
that's a
don't know
little
how you do
unfortunate. Yeah. But they do give you a download code for it.
that. Oh, perfect.
So you can listen to it on your phone or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, but I've heard from people that have either gotten their records already and listened to it that it's like a lot more slow and patient than a lot of the trilogy stuff was, which is already very slow and patient. So that means I'm either going to absolutely love it from all the nuance of it, or it's going to be like a very difficult listen, and I'm going to have to like listen to it multiple times to understand it. Hopefully it's the first one because 2 hours is a lot. But still pretty excited for that. We'll see how that is next week.
Yeah.
Man, it's just so weird seeing upcoming albums. You have like Blur, Slow Dive. Like, what's happening?
Yeah. And still, Claro is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, true. I don't know where she's at.
Where is she?
Who knows? I think she's on tour with
May
Boy
never
Genius,
know.
actually,
Oh, well, yeah. That's true.
which is totally acceptable.
That
That'd
is
be a great
acceptable. Yeah. I would see that show if it was not in Chicago.
show. Yeah, they need to go to more places than Chicago.
Why would
is
you go
everyone-
to Chicago?
I would...
Chicago's so hard to get in and out of.
Yeah.
Could have
There's so
placed
many
like
people.
an hour away.
It is, but
If
it
it's-
takes like 2 hours when you have to
Oh.
like find parking and get into the city.
Yeah. Pay
It's the worst
tolls.
experience possible.
Yeah.
The troll toll.
The troll tolls. You gotta pay
The
those.
troll toll. Yeah. But that's it for music. Very good week. I wish I could talk about some of these more, but like I can't literally talk about classical and ambient music without you just having to listen to it because there's not much there to talk about.
It would anyways.
But go listen to the Sigur Rós album. It's fantastic. Yeah. But next week, Swans review, and then whatever else surprise drops because apparently everybody's just coming back on Mondays and Tuesdays. So I'll see you for the next Michael Jackson review when he drops on Thursday.
Oh, hell
Let's
yeah.
go.
I don't think that's gonna
AI
happen.
Michael Jackson.
Oh, perfect. You know the Jackson estate would do that.
Yeah. They're like, hey, we're running out of cash flow. We need something here.
Is Janet still making music?
I don't know if she is. She kind of like her career kind of got exiled after the whole Super Bowl thing, which is like just awful
Yeah.
since she literally did nothing
She
wrong.
did
But,
nothing wrong. Yeah.
yeah. Sounds like she does have a record coming out this year eventually. Although it was announced 2 years ago, and there's no information about it. So looks like the last thing she released was in 2015. So
Oh,
she's somewhat
Who
active.
knows?
she's
Still need to listen to
around.
Velvet Rope. I know people are really late waiting for that. There's a lot of good stuff on my wheel. I'm just, we'll get to it. I swear.
We'll get there
Yeah.
probably soon.
Soon?
Or
promise,
later.
Very
maybe?
soon.
Soon?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for music. Other segment this week, I don't have anything prepared. I was on a little vacay for my birthday, and I was like, I'm not going to write about this week. It's always good
Yeah,
to take
that's
a
fair.
break from that kind of stuff and detach a little bit.
I think so.
I know people, Marxists especially, have issues running into like not being able to enjoy things once you read too much stuff or get too entrenched in theory, and it's true. There's a lot of things I can't enjoy anymore, but you have to, disconnect and enjoy things every once in a while.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to be an awful existence.
True.
Yeah. More principled brands of leftists are like run into that sometimes. I'm like, you just gotta enjoy stuff you do sometimes and disconnect. So that's what I'm doing this week. But next week we will talk about alienation. It will be very not fun, but very important. As it kind of ties directly into the segment I did last week. So if you're interested in that, you can go listen to that. Broke down some neoliberal propaganda and policy. Very fun stuff. Uh, but after alienation, I'm thinking I'm gonna go to advertising. So this will kind of be like a 3-piece kind of
Let's go.
bundle, which will kind of paint a bigger picture. Hopefully, once I've done all 3 of those segments. But yeah, all 3 of those will kind of be big pillars for this kind of thing I'm going down, which I think I'm liking a lot more than doing historical recounts, because that's a lot more cut and dry than it is where I can actually like write my own stuff without having to like fact check every single year and date, and be a little bit more loose in the writing. So that'll be coming up the next couple of weeks, and then we'll see where I want to pivot from there. I do want to do some like movie and TV stuff. I just need to sit down and like find a good one to kind of go through. But yeah, that's what's coming.
Nice.
The theater's near you.
Yes.
I don't know what's coming for me. I guess I will be seeing Asteroid City soon. I think that comes out this week.
True.
I know my girlfriend's really excited about that one. She seems more excited about it than I am, and I really like Wes Anderson, so I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't been too like hyped for that one either for some reason.
I mean, I'm gonna see it, but
Oh yeah, of course. But
it's like I don't know. I
See it just to see it.
yeah. There was some interesting news with him this week that his next movie is going to be a short film, like a 40-minute short film, and I'm like, good,
Twisting.
nice. I think that more directors should make that decision.
Yeah,
'Cause-
can we stop making like 2 or 2.5 hour movies? I swear.
Yes, that are a
hate it.
40-minute idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cocaine Bear should have been 15 minutes if you think
Spider
about
Verse
it.
is the exception because that went like really quick.
Oh yeah, yeah. There are exceptions to the rule, but it seems that there
course,
are the
please
general
stop.
trend is we need to have a 3-hour Marvel movie. It's like, no, we don't.
Oh, I will never watch that.
No, who asked for this? Yeah, just everything's too long. Barbie can be 5 hours, but everything else,
Yeah. Barbie eats the pass.
yeah.
True.
Oppenheimer, sorry, sweetie, should have been an hour 45, not 3 hours. I'm not
3
going to see
hours? You
that.
kidding me?
I might see it. I don't know. I didn't see Tenet, and I don't really have any desire to see Oppenheimer, so I might not. I'm not the biggest Chris Nolan fan. Okay, I like his movies, but I'm not a fan of him as a person. He's very pretentious, and he's like one of those directors that's like, you have to see movies in IMAX, otherwise you're not really seeing the movie the intended way, and it's like, fuck off. Let me quote Brian Cox. Fuck off.
Oppenheimer will literally blow up your movie theater.
Oh, true.
Your screen will shatter.
Yeah, he was like, people have seen Oppenheimer and called it a horror movie, and I'm not saying they're wrong. And it's like, it's a biopic about the nuclear bomb guy. Let's not get all high and mighty here, okay? I'm sure it's gonna be good, but trim it down, my guy. That's all I gotta say.
It is strange that like as attention spans are like shortening with like TikTok and everything, and just that like we perceive media so much quicker that movies are just getting longer.
That is weird, isn't it?
It's a little strange. I wonder why that is.
I have no idea. That is a great
Mm.
question. I wish I could know, because I will 100% take an hour 20 movie over a 3 hour movie any day.
Absolutely. If I'm like scrolling through a streaming app and I see a movie over 2 hours, there's like a 95% chance I'm not gonna want to watch it.
Yeah. I was watching, okay, I was watching this like a video essay kind of thing, but it was this guy who was breaking down like 1937 Oscars. It's this guy who just talks about the Oscars, and I should probably shout him
It
out.
must be a horrible existence.
Um, I don't know. He seems really passionate. Yeah, his channel is All Talking Pictures. I should probably shout him out because he has like 4,000 subscribers. And
Yeah, give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Give him maybe 2 more.
Give
Yeah,
him
I
clout
don't
from
know.
our podcast. That's definitely bigger than that.
No.
Tell him the Boy Time Pod sent you.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, he was talking about the 1939 Academy Awards, and he was talking about specifically Gone with the Wind, and the video essay was an hour and a half, and he's like, if you haven't seen Gone with the Wind and the length is the thing that's keeping you, because Gone with the Wind is 4 hour long, 4 hours long.
My God.
And he's like, if that's the thing that's keeping you from watching it, you could just watch this video 3 times, or you can watch Gone with the Wind. And it's like, I'm not just watching your video here. Like, this is on in the background as I'm
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
something else. I have to sit down and watch Gone with the Wind. Well, I don't have to, but theoretically, I probably should. I don't care if it's the best movie of all time. Like, that is way too long. Lawrence of Arabia is also really long, and I didn't like that movie, so. And everyone else likes it, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about Gone with the Wind, a Civil War epic about the Confederacy.
It'd be called an epic for a reason.
It's quite.
Like how we're
epic.
talking about this, and I'm like willingly gonna listen to a 2 hour album on Friday, maybe multiple times. It's not even one that's gonna be like super in your face.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like with music, is that you might sit down and listen to it and really listen to it like a couple
Intently.
times, but like
Yeah.
most of the times when you're listening to music, you're doing something else.
True.
It's not something that demands 100% of your attention, and the same
Yeah.
thing kind of goes with video essays or
I don't watch a lot of movies. I always wonder why I don't watch a lot of movies, but it like requires a lot of attention for
Yeah.
a long
Oh, yeah.
span of time.
True.
Like, do I want to commit myself to this right now?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what keeps me from watching a lot of Kurosawa's movies, because they're 3
Yeah.
hours long and they're foreign, so I
Yeah.
have to watch because subtitles.
Subtitles. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of rough. I was thinking like, hey, I should watch Das Boot. That'd be funny. 1981 German movie, 4 hours long. Nope,
There you go.
I'm
course.
tapping out. Yeah. Same with there's this other German movie. It's like a war movie. I don't know why all war movies are so long, but I'm not a fan. Can we make war movies like 2 minutes long? We get it. War is bad. What else is there to say?
War is very bad.
Oh,
There you go.
What if there's a war is good actually,
Well,
that would be
or the
interesting.
usual
mean-
war is bad, but it has to be done?
Oh, a Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
and spicy.
I don't know if that's the theme of Hurt Locker. It's like in the Iraq War, so I assume it's like it's a necessary
way.
evil.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
We
just
had to
have
go
it.
there, brother.
Just have it be from the Lockheed Martin perspective, and
Yeah.
that's how you can make it good.
We made a lot of money today.
That's what's nice about it, is that we made cash.
They should do that, like a Succession style, like look at defense contractor companies.
Oh,
and,
and
like,
make the
look at manufacturers.
Make the company name like a Dockyard
Yeah.
Marty or something.
There's been
I'm sure there's probably something like that.
I don't know if there's a movie about it. I think there's been a documentary.
Oh, I'm sure.
But like,
I just would
Oh,
like
that's
like
not
a
as
show
fun
or
though.
No,
or
it
a
isn't.
movie like Succession where they just show you that perspective and not the other side's perspective, and then you can just see how awful it is.
true. That's
That's why
Succession's whole
Succession
thing.
is so great. It's
Yeah,
just like, yeah,
it's just
which I do want to talk about once you finish it.
sorry.
Oh, good.
Come on,
I've
finish
been
it.
watching Black Mirror.
Oh yeah, I forgot that came out.
Okay.
I'm avoiding that show like the plague.
That's fair. Uh, I was gonna talk about it, but um, I don't know. The first episode's fine. It kind of reminds me of that Miley Cyrus episode they did.
Oh yeah.
Joan is Awful is what it's called. It seems more like a Stranger Than Fiction, or like a just kind of like a quirky comedy that's kind of surreal. It's not really
So quirky.
heady like most Black Mirror is. The second episode got me hard. And I think it was just like how it was shot very specifically. Because they do like a found footage thing at the end, and it was very messed. It's messed up. And then the third one I just watched, and that one has Aaron Paul in it.
Yes, sir.
I'm like, ooh, Jesse, what are you doing? And it's a period piece about the 70s. I'm like, oh,
Interesting.
he doesn't. That guy is not in the 70s.
No.
Sorry. But Aaron Paul, he still has this kind of like buzz cut that he has at the end of Breaking Bad, and like, sorry, that guy's stuck in 2008.
Yeah. He was built for that time period.
Yeah, but it is very good. It's that one was. I mean, it's very USS Callister, but
It's not a bad thing.
no, it's not. It's just kind of. I only say that because there's some space stuff in it, but it isn't like a game. It's actual, like he's an astronaut.
real life.
The crux of his thing, which is kind of interesting, it's a interesting kind of setup, is that he's an astronaut and he is on a like 6-year voyage, and it's an alternate universe where I guess the space program just like kept going after the moon landings, I guess, and now we're like full on, we're going to somewhere else. So while they're on the rocket ship or whatever, the NASA, or they never really say, but the space organization creates.
Make it NASA.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't just say NASA, because it clearly takes place in America. But the company or whatever makes robots that, like, kind of like the classic Black Mirror thing where you can kind of transfer your consciousness between your actual body and this robot that's a complete and utter replica of you that lives at home. So, like, you only wake up like once a week to do like routine checks on the ship, but then for the most part, you're doing like hypersleep. And then you just get to be with your family and this robot that's a complete replica of you. I'm like, that's kind of an interesting premise. Because that's like the, thing about being an astronaut is that you're away for so long. So then having something where you're just actually at home for most of the time while your body's in space is kind of interesting. And then hilarity ensues.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll watch them eventually.
They're pretty good. I would say the especially the second one and the third one are definitely worth the watch. First one's okay. It gets a little too meta for me, but Michael Cera's in it for a little bit, and that's kind of fun.
Let's go.
And he's playing Michael Cera,
Of course.
so that's kind of awesome. But yeah, I think there's 2 other episodes. I'll probably watch them. I watched the first 2 in a row, and then I'm like, I need to stop, because the second one is so, oh boy, it's a gut wrencher. And then the third one I watched today, right before Rashomon. Like, oh man, I just really set up myself for failure. So yeah, I don't know. I will get to Succession. I swear. I've seen the first episode. 8 to go.
Pretty good.
7 to go.
I think it's 8.
Okay. I'll watch them. I've just been very busy with work. I worked 6 days in a row, so I've
Let's go.
not had a lot of chance to watch things.
On the grind.
I am on that grind. So, but I think with that, that's all I have to say. I think.
Me too.
Nice.
Me threes.
Said the number.
I did, and I didn't even mean it.
Oh.
I'm
Bye.
sorry.